Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Last week I talked about the so-called middle class in the United States, and I was saying that probably to bust some people's bubbles that there really is no middle class in the United States. And we used to have the poor. Everybody knew who the poor were. Then we had the working class, people working in mills, people busting their butt every single day, trying to make enough money to survive, making cars, doing all that type of stuff. Then we had the middle class, mom and pop stores, things like that. A lot of times they had their own businesses. And then there was the upper class, the doctors, the lawyers, the dentists, people like that. And then you had the really wealthy. Okay. But then we decided we wanted to be politically correct and say, it isn't nice to call people poor or working class. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of the word poor and we'll get rid of the word working class, and then we'll get rid of the word upper class because, you don't want to feel up here. So what we'll do is we'll just combine them all together. So what we decided in the United States, you're extremely wealthy, extremely poor, and everybody else was in the middle. 20 on the bottom, 20 on the top, 60 in the middle. And that sounded really good. Then we did go and say, you know what? How do we make more money? How do we sell stuff? How do we increase consumerism? Oh, we just tell people, and I was reading before I came here, that people can get subject to over 1,000 ads a day, watching TV, on their phone, on the internet, ads popping up all over the place. And what do these ads tell you? This is what you got to do to have a middle class life. But they're not talking about the middle. They're talking about what used to be the upper class. Okay, I'm middle class. I'm making $45,000 a year and I'm middle class. But the top end of the middle class, maybe making $180,000 a year, has this. But how do I do that? Simple. Credit cards. Okay? So I keep buying on credit and credit and credit. But I get all these, 31%, 27%, 29% loan interest rates. But the people on the upper middle class now get, they may only get 12% interest rate, and they may be able to pay their balance off every month, so they don't have to pay much interest at all. So we've gone in and taken the people on the bottom, and what used to be working class, say you're middle class, and this is what we expect you to buy. Then you got places like rent to own. You know what? You want to be like other people? You can rent to own this TV. Only 3 years worth of payments. and the 3-year obsolete TV is yours. When my daughter was getting ready to go to school, she says, "Hey, Dad, I got my laptop." And I go, "Laptop, where'd you get it from?" "Well, I got it from Rent to Own." I said, "Let me see that contract." I go, "Wait a minute. I can go to Staples and get that laptop for $300. But Rent to Own, it's going to cost you $1,300 over 3 years. And in 3 years, that computer won't be even working. Or barely, will be outdated." So what we've done is take the people on this end and say you got to be living like this end. I know you're making $45,000, but you know what? We can sell you a truck as long as $99 down, and as long as you're making $400 a week, we can put you in the vehicle you want. "Oh, yeah, you know that truck? So well, we'll get the payments down for you, and we'll get it to 108 payments at 12% interest." "Oh, but the person up here may be able to get that same vehicle for 60 months payment at 2 or 3% interest, or even in some cases 0% interest." And so what we have done is that Americans now owe over $1 trillion in credit card debt. Unbelievable. And that amount is going higher and higher. Now, because of the prices inflation, people are using credit card not on luxury items or look good items or keeping up with the Jones items. They're doing it just to buy basic food, just to buy gas, things that they used to pay cash for, but they don't have enough cash, so now they're putting it on a credit card. Just think, you know that TV dinner or that pre-made dinner you bought from Hannaford's last year and you put on your credit card? Oh, it's still on your credit card and you're still paying. You could be paying 30%. So that $30 meal, if you didn't pay at all, you never got around to paying on it, becomes a $39 meal after a year. And if you still haven't paid it off, quote unquote, it now comes a $50 meal. So you're still paying for something that you're eating, you have already ate, and you've already flushed down the toilet. And so what you're doing is every month you're flushing your hard-earned money down the toilet. And the banks are happy and stuff. So now they're going in and saying, well, you know, the terms that we have for, you know, the middle class, you know, maybe that's hurting some people's feelings. So what we got to do is we got to flower it up. We got to go in and say, let's make it. So what they have done is economically they've redefined the middle class. So instead of having 5 every 20 sections, they go, no, we will refine what the middle class is. So the 3 types of middle class are America's lower middle class. So now you're really middle class, but you're the lower middle class. The lower middle class, you're able to pay for cell phone service, internet, utilities, food, and housing with very creative money-saving lifestyle situations, such as multiple generations living in your house. So, hey, you thought Johnny was going to grow up, move out, get a job? But, you know, Johnny's 25, 28 years old, living in the basement. He's contributing some money. Or you thought Susan was going to move out, but, you know, it really hasn't worked out very well. So Susan and her 2 children are living in the house. So Susan's contributing money in bingo. So you're finding ways just to take care of the basics. What you do is you eat non-traditional food. You know, you go to the dollar store and pay $1.25 for one of those high sodium meals, or you go to McDonald's and get some cheap food. You don't have health care insurance. You use credit cards and or payday loans to make ends meet. Oh yeah, payday loan. Hey, big deal. You know what? Hey, I'll let you borrow 100, and when you get your paycheck, give me 125 back. Oh, when you get your paycheck, oh, you didn't have the 125? Hey, no problem, no. You gave me 75, so you owe me 50, and I'll give you another 125. And all of a sudden, it keeps building up because of the high interest rates. You pirate and borrow movies for entertainment. If they do anything fun, it's rare and inexpensive, reality seeking. You know, hey, I don't have money to go out. Hey, Bill, what's your Netflix password? Hey, what is your Disney World password? What is your Hulu password? What is your Paramount password? So, you know, one person may be paying and you're sharing all different passwords until you get caught. And many of these people will work themselves into the ground doing backbreaking work by the time they're in their 40s and they go on disability at some point. The ones that work jobs where they're able to continue into old age will work until very old, or will decide it's not worth continuing working for what they're getting paid once their kids are grown up and end up on welfare, or their kids have their own probably low-paying jobs that barely pay enough to keep paying the rent for the multi-generational lifestyle. You know, you'd be surprised the number of people that go on Social Security disabilities when they're in their 50s. They've done all kinds of work. They're done. They're just a shell of a body, incapable of really going out there and holding a meaningful job. Are there some slime bags and everything that go out and get Social Security disability and don't deserve it? Yes, there are. Are there slime bag lawyers that go out there and help them get it? Yes, there are. It's just like I help veterans who get disability that they rate. Do I come up with slime bags that I know that are lying their butts off? Yes, I do. Do I know people going out with bogus letters from doctors that they paid for? Yes, I do. But that doesn't take away from the vast majority of the ones who are getting disability compensation payments for their disability and service. And just like a lot of these people, hey, work construction, shoveling, using the pick and everything. Do that for 30, 40 years and see what happens to your body. It's wasted. And there's a lot of ones that will not get on Social Security disability, but as soon as they turn 62, they'll collect Social Security they'll take Social Security at the 70% rate. Just think of that. Hey, Yep, I'm good at 62 and I got 900 bucks. Just think, you're 62 and you live another 20 years, all you're living on is that $900 plus whatever COLA that you receive. So even 20 years from now with COLAs and stuff, you might be up to $1,200–1,300. Okay? If you're not in government housing, you're not in senior housing, you're screwed. Because you're going to be in some crap house that could be owned by some slum landlord, but you have no choice. Otherwise, you'd be out in the street. Go around town and see where the homeless are staying. You'll see them in the daytime. There's different places around Keene. And look at the ages of them. They're in their 50s and they're in their 60s. They got no place to go. And so they may show up at the community kitchen, Lutheran church. They're looking for places to eat because they don't have much. But remember, because we don't want to hurt their feelings, they are middle class people. But now we're just going to group them in the lower middle class. Now, how's this as a play on words? Now the next group is the middle class. What does it take to be in the middle class? They can pay for those things with much less stretching, plus pay for health insurance. They have to be careful with their money. They like to live in bigger houses, have a nice car, travel more often. Their idea of vacation is Yosemite, Las Vegas, Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls every few years. They probably still eat mostly junk food and fast food because who has time to go to the store and buy raw ingredients and cook? Overall, they live fine during their healthy work years. As long as you're healthy and you're working, you're living okay. You might get a vacation every 2 to 3 years. You know you have health insurance. Hey, you may have $5,000 deductible, $6,000 deductible. I know some people who have $13,000 deductible for their health insurance. Oh, well, what the heck? Go to the hospital for 4 or 5 days and then you meet your deductible. If you have $6,000 deductible, you up $13,000 deductible, you know what? You don't have health insurance. If you're just barely making it, and this is all you can afford for health insurance, a $13,000 bill would waste you. You would not even come close to be able to pay that bill. And if you don't pay that bill after a certain while, the hospital will sell it to a collection agency and they'll go after you and hound you and hound you and hound you. But you had health insurance. So overall, they live fine during their healthy work years. The only problem is that they have little or nothing left over to save for retirement. Seems like every middle class person I know has very little saved for retirement, even the ones in their 50s and 60s. So, if you're the middle class, you're working your butt off so you can have secure housing, secure food, all that. You're wasting a lot of money because you may be going to McDonald's and things like that. The middle class, you don't qualify for basically any subsidies. You don't get a subsidy on child care. You don't get a subsidy like free or free reduced lunch. You don't get Section 8 housing, or Keene housing where you pay 30% of your income. You're over that. So basically, you really don't get much except the child credit. And I think once you turn 16, you lose that. So, I've already told you about the lower middle class, and now I just finished up with the middle class. So they get to work, then all of a sudden, they're up to a certain point. Oh crap, I'm ready to retire, and when I retire, I don't have any money. All I have is Social Security. Even if me and my wife, we average, so we get a little bit more than average, we get $3,000 a month between us. How far does $3,000 a month go? that's $36,000. So we got another 20 years to live, so we can live on $3,000 a month. Oh, we got a nice house. The house is worth $300,000. So we have to pay approximately $10,000 a month. A year for property taxes. So we take $800 off, so we're down to $2,200 a month. Then you got to pay things like, oh man, I got to pay for insurance. I got to pay for water or sewer. I got to pay for electricity. I got to pay for trash. Oh, that can easily take $500 a month off. Now you're down to $1,700 a month. Oh, if I got to pay a Medicare supplement, it could be $300. Oh, I got to buy food. I got to pay for my car insurance, gas. Okay. You are just barely surviving and hoping the taxes on your house don't go much higher. Because you can work all your life, pay your houses, you retire, and you gotta hope you do not get taxed out of your house. But don't worry. Like the people of City of Keene and some other places, you can go to them and say, hey, I can't live. I can't keep paying all the taxes. And they say, we got a deal for you. Hey, we will just create a lien on your property. You live another 20 years and we're taking off $5,000. So when you die and the house is sold, we get $100,000 first, and whatever's left over goes to the people. Or if one of us gets sick and we have to go on Medicaid, the state of New Hampshire just puts a lien on the house. And because Medicaid nursing home is really expensive, you can go to Maplewood for about $150,000 a year. So in 2 years, you don't own any of that house. But that's the catch, but you also owe the city the taxes. And so somehow I don't think that's really what our definition of middle class is. But now, here's the upper middle class. The upper middle class, but the upper middle class is a lot of ones that would fall in the wealthy. But, we don't want to appear standoffish. I know we may live in gated communities. I know we may take part in politics or know a lot of local people or serve on local committees so we can get what we want. Then we can ensure we have NIMBY, not in my backyard. We can ensure what we consider riffraff have to be in a certain section of the city, not in our section. We'll make sure the city won't do anything that could possibly affect our home values, or their kids would go to the kids that our school go to. The upper middle class can pay for mostly all of those. They live in a house with plenty of space, drive late model cars, take nice vacations out of the country, i.e. all-inclusive resorts, stay in overwater bungalows like in Bora Bora every couple of years. The value of the vacation the lower middle class can only dream of, the types, and the middle class might do once or twice in a lifetime. Plus, they have a little nest egg for retirement. Only 23% of Americans have over 100,000 saved, and only 11 have more than 250,000 savings and investment. Those 11% are what I call the upper middle class. Upper middle class is able to retire without working themselves to death and probably do a few fun things like going on cruises well in their retirement. The upper class are the ones that can do pretty much whatever they want, whenever they want to, and still have money left over as long as they keep their job. This is probably the top 7%. So here, so the people in the top 20% are not, which are up there, they don't want to appear snobbish. But a lot of them are snobbish. For the people who are on Facebook, people don't have to tell you, oh, if in this category they're the lower middle class, the middle class, or the upper middle class. All they have to do is show you them your vacation pictures, and now tell them where it's at. I last year went to Japan for 2+ weeks. Took my wife and took my granddaughter to go see my grandson getting married on mainland Japan. Okay? As far as the middle class, that would be a once in a lifetime vacation or trip. Okay? I take my kids, I take my grandkids, we traveled all over. You get to do stuff. I have my job working in the Marine Corps, plain simple. I got a job right now, and like it says, so it'd be like, okay, I'm not wealthy, but I would fall in the upper middle class. Plain and simple. Spend my 20+ years in the Marine Corps, I have a pension. Before the middle class and the working class could work, and a lot of them got pensions. It may be, okay, here's a pension, $900, and it's never gonna go up again, but you still had stuff. But very few places will give a pension anymore. Hey, if you want money, put it in a 401 or an IRA, and we'll match some. For every 5% you put in, we'll give you 1%. And the people that are on the upper echelon, the upper middle class, they do that. Oh, it says I can put $5,000 in. I'm going to put $5,000 in because my boss is going to give me 10% match. He's going to give me $500. So basically, that's taking money off the table where the middle class and the lower class could never afford that because their money is survival money. The middle class wants to make sure they're paying that mortgage every month. They want to be able to make sure they have a house to stay. And it says the upper class are the ones who can do pretty much whatever they want. They can do and still have plenty of money left over as long as they keep their job. I think it was Time magazine. I may have the magazine wrong. And they had, it's probably inappropriate now, but I think the word was a white whale. What was a white whale? And other people called it again, probably inappropriate. White man's disease. What is the white man's disease? A white man's disease is someone who's been working, got a nice paying job, been working for the company, bang, bang, about 55 years old. And the company says, we're paying him a lot. He's got kids, and he doesn't want to work 80, 90 hours a week. He's taking his vacation. His medical costs are going up. He's in that age that he may get a heart attack or may come up with diabetes, have a stroke. He's just costing too much. So, you know what? We're going to have a layoff. Okay? So we lay off a lot of this middle management. Just like General Motors this week said, we're laying off about 1,200 salary people because we want to decide what would be the appropriate management levels. Okay? So now, these individuals, they'll get a severance package, maybe for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, depending on how long they work there. But they're going to go home. They're going to go, how am I going to pay for my mortgage? How am I going to pay for my kids' education? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Well, the article said these guys in their 50s, over 90% of them will not be able to get a job that paid them what they were getting before they were laid off. So these are the ones who were doing really good. They were putting money away and everything. So they have to get a job that's less than their capabilities and experiences, so they get paid less. And if they can't get enough, they have to take it out of their 401 or the IRA and have to pay taxes on it. So that's what it's saying is, and still have plenty of money left over as long as they keep their jobs. Look at it. What you see, look at the layoffs. The layoffs, a lot of them are high paying salaries. Some of these people have been working at Google and Alpha and all these high-tech Microsoft. They're being laid off. Some of the work is being transferred overseas. More and more is going to AI. And you know why? Okay, if I get rid of Kris, who's been with the company for 30 years, since he's been out of college and moved up 3 or 4 levels and making $200,000 a year, but he doesn't want to put all this extra effort in, you know what? Maybe I can find some 25-year-old kid just out of college, get his master's degree. He'll come in, she'll come in. They're not married. They'll work their butts off. Even if they're sick, they won't use their sick. So I'm saving money on sick. You know, it's like I'm on the finance committee at the Keene School District. Back and forth and everything. How's it? In 2011, the state goes, hey, we're not paying health care for retirees after 2011. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, people used to come in. You could come in at 22, work 30 years, retire, take your New Hampshire pension, or move out of state and get another teaching job. Bingo, do your 30 years, get even take early retirement, get portion, and you got money coming in. So bingo, 22, 30, 52, 7, 59. And doesn't prevent you from doing that. We've had people leave here, get early retirement, and go work someplace else. But goes, holy crap, I'm 52. I can't get Medicare until I'm 65. What am I going to do? Okay, more and more people work later, longer and longer. And what happens as people work longer and longer, we have more catastrophic claims. Oh, catastrophic 100,000 and more. So the company's going, when they're looking at this, oh, Kris is getting old, and the risk of Kris having a catastrophic claim, and I look at all this group, so, hey, how do we get around the age discrimination? Oh, no problem. We'll just eliminate the whole department. Or we'll do it another way. We'll eliminate the whole department and allow people to reapply for other open jobs in the company. You may have to move or things like that, but you can apply and we'll look at you. That's why the number of people suing for age discrimination is going up. But those are the games. Okay? So, we gotta be honest. We, the politicians and stuff like this, they'll talk about middle class America. But they don't care about middle class America because middle class America doesn't give them money. They'll talk about middle class America. They'll stroke our backs on middle, or they'll pat us on the head and pat us on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm there for you. Or let's talk about abortion. Okay, for some people, abortion is an important issue. Okay, but there's millions and millions of families who are struggling every day just to put food on the table and to stay in the house and make sure their 15, 16, 17-year-old beater of a car doesn't fall apart. I don't see any talk about them. We're talking about, oh yeah, we'll build 3 million houses. Okay? We'll even give you $25,000 for a first-time homeowner. Okay? But what's your credit reference? Where are you going to get money? Oh, you can get a little house for $250,000. So you have closing costs and everything, and then so you got to put 20,000 down, all this kind of stuff. So you got to come up with 60,000 bucks. If the president says we're going to give you 25, you still got to come up with 35,000 to get in the house. They're talking a lot, but they're not doing the walk. And every day, every political cycle ends up where middle class who? At the end of every political cycle, there is no more middle class talk until the next cycle begins to talk. All the middle class is supposed to do is buy, whether you do it in money or credit, buy. And people, well, we're not having a recession. A recession is the economy has to go down 2 months, 2 quarters in a row. Okay? The wealthy and the upper middle class are spending so much money, they are preventing a recession. But the people in the middle, they're doing their best to survive. They don't even know if they're going to have a job next year. They don't even know, some of them, if they're going to have a house next year. Maybe the landlord decides he wants to sell it, and the other landlord says, okay, I'm raising the rent $200 on everybody. Okay? Or they'll go, you know what? We'll have rent control on all these places, so we're going to protect the middle class so the middle class won't get screwed. Okay, a contractor, I'm not building any houses in any municipality that has rent control. Look at New York City. It has rent control. In a lot of places, they're not building, and even the landlords are not even fixing up the places. So, where did it all start? This is where I'm going to blow some people's bubble. A man named Ronald Reagan, David Stockton, and Dick Cheney. Ronald Reagan came across, I'm here for the common man. I'm here to protect the common man. I'm here to get rid of those Cadillac welfare queens. Bingo, to get rid of this. Oh, how are we going to do this? Bingo. We're going to have massive expansion of money on defense. Yeah, we're going, you know what? We're going to cut this program. We're going to close all the places for mental health and let the people in the economy take them. Cut. Dick Cheney's philosophy was, we are going to bleed the dragon. The middle class America and the benefits from the government that middle class America, what Dick Cheney believed, we were the dragon. We were the drain on the free economy. He wanted an unregulated, free economy because he believed if we did that, it would result in massive growth. And this massive growth would trickle down and help those poor people, those poor, wretched people on the bottom. And some people will say, yeah, it worked. The people in the middle class, their incomes went up. One I saw, oh yeah, their income over the time when Ronald Reagan was president went up 11%. Wow, that sounds really good. But you know, inflation got as high as 18, 19%. Mortgages were 19%. I get a real deal on my car, and I bought my car for 15.9%. I could get a CD for over 12%. So 11% was nothing. You actually lost money. Not only that, if you go back and look all the way to the end of Jimmy Carter, the deficit was pretty much under control. I can't remember right, but I think it was less than $1 trillion. But Ronald Reagan said, the hell with it. We're going to cut here, and we're going to spend here. And he started with the inflation. He started with the tax cuts. Let's cut taxes here. Let's cut taxes there. George Bush, who said, read my lips, no taxes, he became president, and he said, holy crap, we're in big trouble. We can't stay on the course we are. The trickle down isn't trickling down. The money is trickling up. So he came in and he put some taxes in. It cost him the election. President Clinton came in. He was more of a Dixie Republican. He was more Republican than Democrat. He did a bunch of stuff. He said, okay, we're going to go after welfare. The max you can be on welfare in your whole lifetime is 5 years. So we're going to cut these social services. And we're also going to cut. And then we started getting some surpluses. Bush came in. Hey, let's put a tax cut in here. It was going to be a lot worse without the senator of Vermont, the Republican, who voted no. Bingo. But Obama came in. He supported the banks and everything, and the big companies, gave them a lot of money over the common person. Deficit, deficit, deficit. Trump came in, had his tax cuts. Deficit, deficit, deficit. Biden came in. If it wasn't for Joe Manchin and the senator for Arizona, it would have been much worse. He wanted his inflation protection plan. Deficit, deficit, deficit. We're going to make sure we do this, okay? The middle class that they talk about has not benefited from any one of these. The people that benefit are the ones that bought the benefit. It was a big poker game, and the so-called middle class, we were spectators. We never had enough money to ante in. We had to get jacks or better to get in. None of us had jacks. And so the best we could do was watch and sometimes pick up the crumbs. For others, they didn't get to watch and they didn't get crumbs. And now they're barely surviving. Donald Trump's raise to the White House can be traced to Ronald Reagan's economic policies that hollowed out the middle class. What, according to an economic historian who laid out a slew of really sobering, eye-opening data on income tax, Chinese import debt, and more that he connected to across-the-board tax cuts that began in 1980. Millions and millions of our jobs went overseas. China was producing more. China was selling more and more in the United States. China was getting richer while the stock owners were getting richer. Reaganomics paved the way for Trumpism, a former Duke economic professor said. That's, to me, is more where our problem started, because it created the great amount of inequality. Since Ronald Reagan's first tax cuts, the difference from the middle class was going just like this. The wealthy just kept going here. Much higher. The angle was much steeper and much quicker. This included low and stagnant wages, increase in indebtedness, downward social mobility, declining relative incomes, and the hopelessness accompanied them, whether at the end of the income distribution, the economy was simply booming. So up here, the top 20, it is booming. The people down here, they were hopeless. And you know what happened? What they don't want to say, as the economy was booming up here, and this bottom down here was feeling more and more hopelessness, guess what happened? Drugs. More opioid addiction. When people got hopeless, feeling despair, opioids, heroin, fentanyl, they kept coming. If the economy is booming so much, why did we have 100,000 people die of drug overdoses? Most people who feel really happy, feel really secure, do not go out and overdose. They don't even take the drugs. And the mental pain, the untreated mental health illness. Well, we don't want to pay for that. We don't want to pay for that. Drug them. They die. Well, now what we'll do is we'll just sell Narcan in the stores. You can go it, so in case someone have an overdose, bingo. But we're not stopping the fentanyl, which is agreeing to coming from China, coming in the United States, and buying it right up. He can cite a 3-decade process that started with Reaganomics and his tax cuts, which he said favored the rich by increasing their wealth and political clout. In tax year 1985, for example, he said the top 1% gained $350,000 windfall, while the typical household received $3,500 and the poor received a couple of $100, all in today's dollars. Reaganomics. If you were up here, $350,000 increase in wealth, not income, wealth. And most of that is unearned income. Well, you're up here, you're not in top 1, but you're up in the middle class up here, upper middle class. You made about $3,500 extra. That's in today's dollars. In the bottom, you might have made a couple $100. A lot didn't make any. Reaganomics also crushed the middle class by crushing unions. Hey, the flight controllers went on strike, so he dissolved the union. George Bush Jr. continued to pamper the super rich with his tax policy. The process culminated with Barack Obama bailing out the super rich and his disregard of Main Street. This is a fermentation for people in despair. Hey, look at all the money the super rich got. But hey, 2008, 2009, look at the millions of people that lost their jobs. Look at the unions that were busted. Look at the bankruptcies. Then they went bankrupt and they dumped the pension on the federal government into the pension system, and sometimes people only get 60% of what they thought they were going to get for the pension. When you go to 2008, 2009, the rich and powerful were on their knees, they were bankrupt. That's the only time when we could have really put the economy on a bigger path. The taxpayer bailout was one of the biggest transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top in the history of mankind. So the bottom 80, Obama and the bailout took billions from the bottom of the group, the bottom 80, and says, you're going to protect Wall Street. You're going to protect these companies. You're going to protect the banks that are too big to fail. You note that Citibank and the Bank of America had a combined market value of $24 billion in 2009. Today, they are worth $400 billion, and the taxpayer did not get a single penny in capital gains, which is usually 20%. Okay? So, us group, this smaller group, this is what Hillary Clinton called the deplorables. And in turn, the deplorables elected Donald Trump. So, we can call ourselves middle class if we want to feel good, but you're not middle class. You're just barely surviving.